This is a sacred story that must be told. In our first video, I mentioned that a Jesuit friend in Rome sent me a story called Annette, the story of a soul in hell. Sometimes stories help us, like I said, take these static dogmas and beliefs and put real flesh on them. So I would like to continue with the story on Annette's experience of hell. Remember, the context is two young female friends, both Catholic, but Claire is most devout, and the other, Annette, lazy, cynical about her faith. And Annette's not evil. She's just more interested in herself, nice things, and a fun life. Annette dies in a car accident and is allowed to visit her friend Claire and describe her fate. And she continues. I gave free rein to my bad temper, especially on the subject of certain medieval paintings of hell, in the cemeteries and other places, showing the devil roasting souls over glowing coals, while his companions dragged other victims down with their long tails. Oh, Claire, people might make mistakes in the way they depict hell, but they never, ever exaggerate. I always had my own ideas about the fires of hell. You remember we were discussing the question once, and I struck a match under your nose and said, sarcastically, "Does this smell like hell?" You put the flame out quickly. Well, nobody puts the flame out here. I assure you that the fire the Bible talks about is not just torment of conscience. It's real fire. When he said, "Depart from me, ye accursed, into everlasting fire," he meant it literally. Yes, literally. You say to me, how can spirits be affected by material fire? But on earth, doesn't your soul suffer when you put your fingers in the fire? The soul doesn't actually burn, but what agony your whole being goes through. Likewise, we in this place are spiritually bound to the fire according to our nature and our faculties. The soul is deprived of its natural freedom of action. We cannot think what we should like, nor as we should like. Do not be shocked at what I am telling you. This state means nothing to you, but I am being here burned without being consumed. Our greatest torment is the certain knowledge that we shall never see God. How can that torment us so much when we were so indifferent about it on earth? As long as a knife is left on the table, it does not worry you. You can see it is sharp, but you are not afraid of it. But just let it cut into your flesh and you will be writhing in pain. It's now that way we are actually feeling the loss of God, whereas before we only thought about feeling the loss of God. Not all souls suffer to the same degree. The more maliciously and systematically a man had sinned, so much more heavily will the loss of God weigh down upon him. The man who had more knowledge in his lifetime suffers more severely than one who knew less. If one had sinned through malice, one suffers more cruelly than if it had been through weakness. But nobody suffers more than he has deserved. Oh, if only that were not true, then I should have a reason to hate. You told me one day that it had been revealed to some saint that nobody goes to hell without knowing. I laughed, but afterward I reassured myself by saying secretly, in that case, if the need arise, I can always do an about turn. That is true. Before my sudden end, I did not know hell for what it is. No human being knows it. But I was fully aware that it existed. I said to myself, if you die, you will go into the life beyond straight as an arrow aimed at God, and you will have to suffer the consequences. But as I've already told you, despite such a thought, I did not change my ways. Force of habit pushed me on, and I let it take control of me. For the older one gets, the stronger the power of habit becomes. At that time, I had never believed that the devil was at work, but now I can assure you that he has an enormous influence on people who are in the state I was in then. Only many prayers for myself and others, together with sacrifices and sufferings, would have been able to tear me away from his clutches. And even then, it would have been a slow process. There may be few who are openly possessed, but many are inwardly possessed. The devil cannot take away the free will of those who put themselves in his power, but as punishment for what you might call their calculated desertion, God permits the evil. God permits the evil one to settle within them. I even hate the devil, though at the same time I like him because he is out to destroy you people. Yes, I hate him and his hangers-on, those spirits that fell with him at the beginning of time. There are millions of them prowling about the earth like swarms of gnats, and you do not even notice them. It is not us, the damned souls, who tempt you. That job is only for the fallen angels. The truth is that each time they bring a soul here, it increases their torment. But what limit is there to hate? Those words, pray, Mass, religious instruction, church, I find it unspeakably revolting to utter them. I loathe it all. I hate people who go to church. In fact, for that matter, I hate everybody and everything. The fact is that everything is a source of pain for us. Everything we learned before our death, every memory of things we saw or knew is like a cruel flame. And in every one of these memories, we see the graces that were offered to us, the graces we spurned. Oh, what agony. We don't eat, we don't sleep, we cannot walk upright. We are spiritually in chains, and we look with horror, with weeping and gnashing of teeth on the ruins of our lives. All that is left for us is to hate and torment. Do you understand, Claire? Here we drink and hate like water, even among ourselves. Above all, we hate God, and I will tell you why. The elect in heaven cannot help loving him, because they see him unveiled in all his dazzling beauty. That gives them indescribable happiness. We know it, and that knowledge drives us into a fury. Here on earth, those who know God through creation and revelations can love him, but they do not have to. The believer, and it makes me grind my teeth to say it, the believer who in his meditation contemplates Christ with his arms outstretched on the cross, will end up loving him. But the man to whom God comes like a hurricane, a chastiser, a righteous avenger, the man who God has rejected as he did us, that man can only hate him eternally with all the audacity of his ill will. Yes, hate him with all the strength of a freely made decision to be cut off from him. We made that decision with one dying breath. Even now we would not wish to change it, nor shall we ever wish to do so. Do you understand now why hell is eternal? It's because our obstinacy will go on forever. So let me repropose the same discernment questions from our first lesson. Are there things in my life that I know I need to be forgiven by God? Have I committed grave sin that I have not confessed and in which I persist? Do I feel the things I have done are not really all that bad and I don't need God's forgiveness? Is pride in my own righteousness so impenetrable that I could reject God? If I could go to heaven in exchange for Jesus forgiving my sins, would I let him do that for me? So as in our first lesson on hell, I repeat that these are important points to discern, important points about eternal things. Remember, hell exists because we can definitively say no to God's love and forgiveness. And we are made in that image of God who is love. And love is only possible when it can be rejected. This, we said, is a story of our primordial parents. It's the story of so much of our human history, past and present. And it could be any one of our stories at the end of this present life. Let us pray it will not be so. And as we offered last time, if you need to examine your conscience and go to confession, use our whole life confession program. But take note, hell is real, it's your choice, and it's hell.